Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lawcast. This time, we're going back to a very strange show that I had pretty much forgotten existed, but then when I read the card, I just knew we had to do it. It's Vengeance 2006, and it might be the most batshit insane pay per view in WWE history.
Now that is an incredibly tall order because there have been some bad shit pay-per-views that we've covered and that we haven't and that we'll be covering soon, I'm sure. But man, this one, just looking up and down the card, like we were talking about it before, like we just gotta cover this. This thing is ridiculous.
It's like a series of random match generators. Like you just turned on the WWE 2K video game and you hit the random select wrestler button. Oh, John Cena versus Sabu. Mick Foley versus Ric Flair. Kane versus Fake Kane.
Of course.
Edge versus Rob Van Dam for the world title. Why not?
Absolutely. Like it's just literally like a list of like somebody's fever dream. Like they had a Make-A-Wish kid who just wanted to book for one night, and here it is.
Oh, and DX versus a team of male cheerleaders.
And the Spirit Squad. Okay, I'm going to save my thoughts on the Spirit Squad for later. But like this is the idea of the Spirit Squad is at the same time the most maddening thing in the history of pro wrestling and kind of cool. Like we'll get there.
The crazy thing is they thought they had stars in at least a couple of those guys, and I don't think they saw Nick Namath, Dolph Ziggler as one of them, although he turned out to be by far the most successful of any of them.
Well, like right off the top, do you know that Elijah Burke was supposed to be in this?
No.
Yeah, D'Angelo Dinero was supposed to be one of them.
He'd already been around as Elijah Burke. Were they going to repackage him?
Apparently, like that was just I just read that and I was like, are you fucking serious? Really?
At least he would have had some charisma unlike the rest of these stiffs.
Yeah, exactly. He was going to be like the leader of it, which would make so much sense. But it was only going to be 4 people, not 5. It was just going to be Kenny, Dolph Ziggler, Nikki, and Elijah Burke.
Johnny get thrown in there. Johnny Jeter got thrown in there in his place.
Yeah, Johnny and Mikey both got added in his place.
Yeah, I'll get to that. But yeah, what a strange group of guys, knowing that a couple of them were pegged to be big stars. And one of them ended up being a pretty big star, but not the guy they thought.
Well, let's just put this out there. This is exactly the same as the Nexus, except they fuck it up so hard. Yes. Like but it's the same general principle. Is you take 5 guys who you think have great potential and you put them out there as a stable to just destroy all the veterans because there's so many of them, they're a pack. And they just ruthlessly whoop ass for Vince McMahon. That's a great idea. It's a genius idea. It's just give Vince 5 kids and have them just do his bidding.
Yeah, but they shouldn't be cheerleaders.
That's the thing.
They'll never take them seriously in that gimmick.
And like, it's not like they called them all up for this idea and Vince was like, okay, but you guys are going to be cheerleaders. No. Vince came up with the cheerleader idea and then sent people down to OVW to pick new cheerleaders for him.
Think of whose career could have got, like CM Punk's in OVW at this point.
Fucking Brent, right? I guess.
I think he would have quit before he did this, though.
There's no way.
No. Yeah. But like, yeah, you think of whose career could have gotten ruined by this?
Oh my God. I think Cody Rhodes was down there at the time.
Yeah. Sounds right.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Like the Reaper came for these guys' souls. I mean, yeah, Dolph Ziggler managed to survive it because, yeah, he came back totally. He came back looking so different, nobody realized who he was.
Yeah.
But even that took him 2 years to get back to the main roster.
And then they gave him an equally stupid ass gimmick that he had to overcome. Like Dolph Ziggler has earned his career because he's overcome some bullshit.
Yeah. So, I mean, where's the company at this point? This is the follow-up to ECW One Night Stand. We did that show a couple of years back. It was a great launch for the new ECW brand. A great showcase for the talents and the style. Rob Van Dam beat John Cena to win the WWE Championship in an awesome main event. At the time, expectations for ECW were sky high, and they would crash and burn just about immediately.
Now, I was one of, I want to say, the few people on Earth who was actually a week-to-week ECW TV watcher. because I liked it. I just liked the idea of something new, the idea of something that didn't feel like tainted like Raw and SmackDown always did by being the same all the time. So even though it actively and aggressively sucked, I still wanted to like it.
I enjoyed almost every iteration of it, I'd say. Like,
Yeah.
I was fascinated by it at first when it was, kind of a gritty, like, alternative show. It was not, it went off the rails pretty quickly, mostly because of, as we talked about, just bad luck with Sabu and Van Dam getting busted with pot and Angle having his drug problem really get out of control and them having to release him. And, like, that killed almost all of their stars right out of the gate.
Yeah, but once they kind of came to the conclusion, like this happened like after December to Dismember, but once they came to the conclusion that, oh shit, we just got to lean full into the new guys, it became a great show to watch.
Yeah,
like,
it was the predecessor. It was a less good version of NXT, but it was very much like the predecessor to NXT.
Yeah, you got to see like Punk coming up and John Morrison coming up, and like The Miz found himself again. Like a lot of people made their careers from being there at that time. It was great.
I love the mix of new guys and also like veterans kind of getting their mojo back, like Mark Henry, Regal, Finlay, Goldust. Bunch of guys kind of found the fountain of youth down in ECW.
Absolutely.
So ECW, as we talked about, it goes downhill pretty fast. The debut episode does not really go well. The entire show is built around like John Cena and Edge. They kind of have to carry the show. The matches are not good. The main event is kind of a debacle where they just throw a bunch of guys out there into a battle royal and they all blow up really fast and start botching their spots. Sabu won the battle royal to get a shot to get to fight John Cena at Vengeance, which is how we get to that insane match that actually happened. John Cena versus Sabu in a pay-per-view match.
Oh, yeah.
Ratings came in good, but it was clear that there were some issues here, and Vince was not happy with the show they produced, and Paul Heyman ends up on the shit list pretty fast.
Do you think that there's any do you think that it was even possible for it to succeed enough for Vince not to take it away from Paul? Like, doesn't that seem inevitable?
They have so few guys. They have Angle and Big Show and Angle, Big Show, Van Dam, Sabu. That's 4. And that's most of a 1-hour show. But after that, it gets real thin because it's like the rest of the roster is like Al Snow, Justin Credible, Stevie Richards, Little Guido. You're really scraping the bottom. Roadkill, C.W. Anderson. It's not, like you don't have Raven, you don't have Taz, you don't have the rest of the guys people actually wanted to see from ECW. And it takes a little while. Like they have Punk. That's their one young guy initially. It takes a little longer to get the rest of the young guys in there.
Well, it's so weird too, because this seems like the one time in their history that WWE really struck while the iron was hot. They were like, man, this ECW thing is white hot. So within a year of One Night Stand, they're already launching this. Like, it's crazy. Like they launched One Night Stand 2, and then suddenly we have a brand. So like, it's not fast enough to really let these guys get back into shape, or to let half of the ECW roster is on TNA's roster at this point.
That's the biggest thing. Is part of the reason the first One Night Stand was really good too, but it was because they had all those guys. Yeah, they had all these guys loaned. Like they had the Dudleys and Raven and a bunch of other guys loaned to them because it was just a one-off show.
Yeah. But like, in order to actually run a brand, like you need those guys. And like, those are the guys who are working all the time. Like, you could have done something with Rhino on this brand. And I hate to compliment Rhino, but I'm
Rhino, your least favorite wrestler ever.
But I mean, he's probably the most in shape of any of these guys at this point in history.
Yeah.
Or like, to do this without the Dudley Boys is kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a stretch. They don't have enough guys here. They needed more than they had. It's not a lot because it's only a 1-hour show, but things get so bad so fast when it's like Al Snow, Justin Credible, Big Guido, Little Guido. Like, these are not the people that are fondly remembered from ECW.
And that's the thing. Like, if you're going to have it be that, just don't bring those people back at all. Just have it be like the people that people fondly remember on top, and then just nothing but young guys on the bottom. Like, you're just wasting people's time with Little Guido,
Yeah. So the main event of this show is DX versus the Spirit Squad. So DX has been brought back in the weeks leading up to this. They kind of slow burn teased this for a while.
A long time.
Yeah. Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon feuded like starting in December when there was a kind of weird segment where Vince said he was going to review Bret Hart's DVD, and everyone assumed Bret Hart was about to come back, but instead Shawn Michaels came out and like told Vince it was time to move on, and Vince was like, "Don't make me screw you like I screwed Bret." And then they embarked on just a very weird months-long feud.
And like, it's actually probably the last good thing the Vince McMahon character ever does. It's not a great feud, don't get me wrong, but it actually has like some good moments to it. And like, that's putting aside the awesome Vince McMahon versus God thing that they do.
We'll get there in a second.
Yeah, but like, it's actually a pretty good feud. It culminates in that really awesome match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, Shawn hitting the elbow drop off that like 15-foot ladder with Vince lodged in a trash can.
And like Shane handcuffed to the rope so he can't get in.
Bloody Vince being like stretchered off and giving the finger to Shawn.
Yeah, just a great, and like right before he jumps, Shawn does the crotch chop.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, and that's kind of the slow burn. Is Shawn does the crotch chop, and then a couple weeks later, Triple H does a crotch chop, and we just slowly moving that way. And Triple H is starting to turn face, and you could see this coming.
Yeah, he badly needed to, badly.
Yeah. Then at Backlash, Vince and Shane defeated Shawn Michaels and his tag partner, God, who actually got an entrance.
I swear to God, of all of the really horrible, like tacky nonsense storylines in wrestling history, this is the one I defend because I loved it so much. Vince McMahon plays this straight, completely from start to finish. And just like the reactions of Shane being like
you can't say that.
The greatest moment of comedy in WWE history is when they're in the cathedral and Vince is cutting a promo on God, and it's just like, if you're there, strike me down. And Shane just kind of looks at him and like walks to the side.
Shane just slowly backs away in case God does actually smite them.
Funniest moment in WWE history.
Yeah. I mean, as we've kind of talked about, the Vince McMahon character after like 1999 might be the worst in wrestling history.
Oh God! By this point, he's
so much horrible stuff, so overexposed.
Every segment he's in is a disaster.
Yeah,
because he's just like he's going so hard for it. He's so overacting that it's just like you can't even be in the same scene as him anymore.
Yeah, so the reunion happens on the June 12th Raw, which is the night after One Night Stand. Triple H is in a gauntlet match against all the Spirit Squad, and he's getting his ass kicked. And then Shawn shows up and gets a huge pop. And him and Triple H clean house, throw the guys out, and then they reunite, crotch chops, Triple H moons Vince, DX is back. Thoughts on bringing DX back at this point? It didn't work out, but I think they would have been crazy not to try it.
At the time, it was very exciting.
I was so fired up.
It felt like the first really big thing that had happened in years, didn't it?
Yeah.
It just felt like, oh, something momentous has occurred. Like something game-changing has happened. Like it's like the two-man power trip, but baby faces.
Yeah, my older brother had quit watching wrestling like 4 years before this, but like one day he saw the DX pay-per-view poster and like called me right away to find out what was going on.
I watched this in a bar with other people. Like I actually went out in public to watch the show amongst the fans abreast in the world because I wanted to watch it with other people and talk about it. It was interesting.
This was the kind of thing that really did have the potential to bring people back. It didn't.
No.
But it had the potential to.
That said, it did get crazy over. Like those
glow sticks
and the glow dude.
They sold so many of those glow sticks.
They must have sold so much fucking merchandise for DX because you would look in the crowd and it would be nothing but DX shirts. And it would just be that like one of like them as like tiny cartoon sprites with their asses out. And like just everywhere.
All that said, this is a creative disaster. These segments are unwatchable. And they don't age either. They're even worse than they were back then.
Oh my God. It's just, there are some times where juvenile humor has absolutely worked in the history of wrestling. I'll revert back to, just because this one randomly came to my mind. Do you remember that segment where like Edge was like giving Kurt Angle some paperwork for him to read, like an apology, and then at the back it just said, "I'm a dork."
Yeah, that was funny. That worked.
And it can work sometimes, but it was every fucking week.
Tons of segments every week.
Just like cock joke after cock joke after I love cocks.
You get it? Yeah. The first Raw the next week after this starts with this long tracking shot of Vince McMahon like walking through the back and having to endure like DX humiliation after DX humiliation. It's like, oh, we've got a delivery for Mr. McMahon. It's a rooster, a cock. Get it? And then like male strippers come up, and one of them's Fat Big Dick Johnson, and he's dancing baby oil, and then someone delivers a penis enlarger to Vince, and it's just like, this is the level of humor. And then there's dwarfs, and there's mooning, and there's green slime, and there's poop. It's just everything, like just grab bag every sophomoric joke you can make.
And it genuinely feels like your dad and his buddies trying to get up to youthful trouble. And just stop.
They're just too old. They're 40-year-old men. They're balding. Triple H has his fucking Harley Race mustache. Like, what heelish facial hair that is.
Triple H is bloated. He's got like, his hair's not super long, but it's like just where it's in his face. So he just looks like sad and fat. Even though he's like in way better shape than I've ever been in my entire life, he just looks disgusting.
Yeah, Sean's got the massive bald spot, and he won't actually do the crotch chops because that's unchristian. So he like half-heartedly chops his chest.
I do love.
Won't say suck it.
They managed to find the compromise where he would be like, all right, what if I just make the crowd say suck it? And they're like, fine.
Yeah, God will forgive you for that.
It's just, he must have had to play jump rope with his morals throughout this entire thing because he just didn't want to do this.
His heart does not ever seem to be in this.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is DX in 1997 when they were actually cool. I'm not such a fan of like 98 DX.
But 98 DX is just as bad as this is in a different way. 98 DX is like frat boys date raping people.
Yeah. But like 97 DX was edgy and they were breaking the rules, and like this is not breaking the rules. And part of it is just like you couldn't shock anybody at this point.
Right.
It had all been done. Whereas in 97, it's new. By this point, Edge had a live sex celebration with Lita after he won the title a couple months before this. You're not breaking any ground here.
I honestly feel like that's the last shocking segment left
in
history. Like there's no more to do after that. That's it. That's as far as you can go.
Yeah. Unless you actually had sex.
Yeah.
Which can't do that on TV.
I mean, she did get topless.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, did have a nip slip there. So yeah, DX and the Spirit Squad is our main event here. The Spirit Squad, male cheerleaders. As we've talked about, Nick Namath, Dolph Ziggler, Kenny Dykstra, who is like 20 years old at this point and shockingly smooth and competent for a guy that young.
People were comparing him, and I'm not even joking with this, to Ricky Steamboat when he was in developmental, because he was that smooth.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be a big star just because he's a 20-year-old on the main roster and he looked great.
Yeah. He had that like dynamite leg drop where he'd get like 50 feet in the air.
They pushed him hard a little bit after this. They put him over Ric Flair a bunch of times. He was rubbing elbows with like Edge and Randy Orton. And then John Cena stole his girlfriend, is my understanding.
Okay, the rumor has it, because there's no true confirmation of this, but Kenny Dykstra was dating Mickie James at the time. And what
good on him.
Yes. And the rumor is that John Cena and Mickie James started fucking, And to prevent it from becoming a problem, they just got rid of Kenny.
Yeah. Which, is maybe not ethically the right thing to do, but it's business.
I mean, yeah.
This is how it works in the real world.
Neither Mickey nor John have ever said a word about this. It's all from Kenny's perspective.
Yeah. So maybe he's just jealous and imagining things, but sounds plausible.
It sure does.
Yeah. Also in there, Johnny Jeter, who they seem to have big plans for, but he fizzled out after this.
Oh yeah, Johnny Jeter was supposed to be great too. Like he was a smaller guy, but like I distinctly remember at this time because I was following OVW pretty closely at this point because CM Punk was in it. So like that was the shit. Like I had to pay attention. So like Johnny Jeter was supposed to be fucking great, man. He was having all these great matches with all sorts of guys. There was like Ken Anderson and like Brent Albright and CM Punk and like there were so many cool dudes down there. And like literally he was a tag. Do you remember Matt Capitelli?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't he win one of the Tough Nuffs?
Yeah. But he was the blonde guy who got roughed up by Hardcore Holly that one time. But he also got brain cancer. But like literally
those are two different guys. Did Hardcore Holly beat him up too?
No, he was the guy he beat up.
Daniel Pooter.
No. That's a different time.
Different time Hardcore Holly beat somebody up.
Yeah, this is the time where Hardcore Holly actually went on Tough Enough the show and then roughed him up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he got brain cancer, but before that, he and Jeter were in a tag team. They called them the Thrill Seekers, and like they were the fucking tag team. They were going to come up and be like the babyface team until Matt got brain cancer.
Yeah.
So like literally, like the future was the sky was the limit for Jeter.
And then you got Mitch, who wasn't really a wrestler. He was just like the manager.
Yeah, I mean Mitch wasn't very good. I mean, he did have sex with Tori Wilson, which is better than I can say, I guess.
So were these guys? So the thing with these guys, they were not good at doing the cheerleading part.
No,
but they weren't like bad enough. I feel like they needed to either be really good at it or really bad at it, and they were kind of in the middle, and there was no room for that.
There's a way I feel like this gimmick almost could have worked. And maybe that's just me being naive. I don't know. But like if they had just actually been good at this, I feel like that's okay, right?
It's not a main event act.
No.
No. That's what's insane is like these are Vince's henchmen against DX.
And that's the thing. If this was just supposed to be like the new like Mean Street Posse, fine. But to have it be like your top developmental stars is baffling.
Yeah.
Like
literally killed careers.
Like literally, you could have done the Nexus here with these same 5 guys.
Yeah, Vince is just like, I'm tired of the Attitude Era. I'm tired of old guys. These guys are going to kill all of these old guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to inject it with a lethal dose of poison. Or just like, fuck ECW. They're getting all my shit. Here's my army, my anti-ECW army, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like these like clean cut white boys are like the opposite of ECW.
Oh, so on this night, our WWE Championship match is Edge defending against, or Rob Van Dam defending the title against Edge. I feel like this is an answer to a trivia question because I feel like practically every other pay-per-view title match in WWE history involved one of like 7 people.
Yeah.
Like Hogan, Steve Austin, might have to include Randy Savage, Diesel. Like these are 2 real outliers. This is an outlier of a match.
Yeah, this is, and it's another one. Like we were just talking the other day about how like Dolph Ziggler versus Kofi Kingston feels like an Intercontinental title match. Doesn't this one kind of feel like that too?
Yeah, because Rob Van Dam was the Intercontinental Champion for like 5 years straight. It's very strange that Rob Van Dam got the biggest push of his career in 2006.
Like long after he's hot to any extent.
Because he was on fire when he came in 2001. And you figure when they do the roster split in 02, like now it's his time to shine.
He even had that feud with Triple H where it really seemed like he was going to get it. And then they put over Shawn Michaels instead.
Yeah. And back to the IC title for him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he gets this push because they brought back ECW is sort of the long and short of it. And he's over, but he's not on fire or anything.
No.
And yeah, I mean, Edge gets the shot. because he helped Van Dam win the title at One Night Stand. So Paul Heyman gave him the title shot.
I mean, it makes sense. And like Edge is fucking hot here.
Edge is great. He's living his best life at this point. Was this the best Edge ever was?
I feel like Edge and Vicky on SmackDown is better than this.
That was really good too.
But this is like so great. Yeah. Like this just like
finally broke through.
This like evil, slimy dickhead of a man.
So hateable at this point. He has really no redeeming qualities at this point. But he's not like a cartoon villain. He's just a dick.
Yeah. Like the ultimate, when they stumble across the phrase ultimate opportunist, it just sums it up so well. Like he makes friends to betray them to get further on. Like he's that guy.
John Cena will take on Sabu in a lumberjack match. Yes. Again, what the hell is going on here?
I love this idea. So I feel like...
this match ends up being awesome.
Don't you feel like he asked for this match?
Cena?
In like some meeting or something. He was just like, I want to fucking wrestle Sabu.
Sabu is great. I mean, we've talked before, but this run here was the best of his career.
Fucking sober Sabu, bringing it 100%.
He's in shape. He's hitting everything. He looks totally at home in there with John Cena, the top guy in the business at this point.
Yeah, this is a spoiler for later, but like literally, he does not botch in this match. He looks amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if they showed the replay, but he did a triple jump on Cena on Raw. You might remember this, where like he gets up on the rope and it looks like he's going to go down, and he just like somehow stops time and like freezes himself and steadies himself on the rope and stands there for a second and then launches himself off and just hits Cena perfect.
Just crushes him with it, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's an extension of John Cena's feud with ECW, you know, kind of a B match for Cena to be in, but it ends up being really good.
Absolutely.
Ric Flair and Mick Foley are feuding in 2006.
This is a real thing that is happening.
Yeah. So Foley is a heel at this point. He's turned heel because he's against ECW coming back. They're like kind of trying to recreate the anti-hardcore stuff that he did as Cactus Jack in ECW, but not like committing to it the way they did there. He's still like wrestling Mick Foley hardcore matches.
Right.
Foley, this is all Mick Foley's. This is like Foley wrote these storylines like himself from beginning to end, right?
Oh God, yes. Like when you read his books,
when Terry Funk is brought in 2006, you know it's Mick Foley.
It plays out in his like later books, which are all very depressing to read.
Yes, they are.
About how like he like came up with these storylines and he had to like fight tooth and nail with Vince McMahon every step of the way until Vince McMahon finally gave up and was just like, Mick, just do whatever the fuck you want, I guess. And then like each time it happened, it didn't work. Like there was just diminishing returns. Like the Orton feud, genius.
Brilliant.
And you know that's why Vince is saying
the Edge feud was also great.
The Edge feud was great. The parts with Tommy Dreamer and Terry Funk weren't so great.
No, Terry Funk, they should not. Like Vince was right to say no, that we shouldn't bring Terry Funk in. He's just too old at this point.
Yeah. But I mean, like this, once we get to this, it's just bad. Like this feud doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, let's lay this out. Foley is doing a promo the night after One Night Stand, and Flair just interrupts him and comes out. And everybody's just like, what the fuck? Like, these guys have nothing. Like, these guys have interacted on screen because Mick Foley feuded with Evolution. That was 2 years before this.
And, like, they damn sure haven't had shit to do with each other since then.
No. So they then just start arguing about comments that each guy had made about the other in their books. Like Mick Foley's book where he trashed Ric Flair came out in 1999, 2000. Have a nice day.
And then Ric Flair's book came out a few years later, but it's several years.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is not at all timely.
No, and like Mick Foley has said often in his books that like the way that he would come up with good promo material and good story material is that he would just take slights that people gave him and just hold on to them for years and years until the right time came. And that's clearly what this was about. But like, what the fuck? Nobody cares about this.
No, and yeah, Mick Foley's book was really successful, and so was Flair's. What? Not that many people read them and like remembered what was in them years later.
Your audience is different now.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is a lot of the people who remember that stuff aren't watching anymore.
It's just, I just don't even have the words for how bizarre. And like, I know that in Mick Foley's head, this must have made sense. And Mick Foley said he's just like, I'll work it into my anti-hardcore thing. I'll be like, I'll prove that I'm not hardcore. I'll out wrestle Ric Flair, the greatest of all time. And then I'll turn heel because I can't actually do it. And then I'll have to revert to hardcore and the people will hate me for being a hypocrite. But it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah, and the basis that would work here, the basis of a feud that would work here would be like Ric Flair, the technician, versus Mick Foley, the brawler. But because Mick Foley is doing an anti-hardcore character, it can't really go that way. Like
Mick Foley in 1997 could have done that.
Yeah.
It could have been like, oh, we're going to do holds? Fuck you, I'll do holds. Yeah, let's go. And because he was fat, but he could move.
He can barely walk at this point.
He can't even move, man.
Yeah, he's wearing sneakers and sweatpants out there.
And like the idea that he's going to do some like, and even Flair can't do it anymore.
Oh, Flair's about to retire too. Flair's in his 50s.
So like none of this, it's not the right time. Arguably, there was never a right time for this.
Yeah, if this was going to happen, okay, if this had happened like in WCW in the early 90s and it was just like Ric Flair versus Cactus Jack, that would have been awesome. Or like, yeah, if you could do this in 98 and it's Ric Flair versus Cactus Jack or Mankind, or you could rotate the faces of Flair, but by 2006, you're not pulling this off.
And nobody wants to boo either of these guys.
No, they're both baby faces for life at this point.
Yeah. Like Flair's gotten to the point where all he can really do is comedy and like take sick bumps because he doesn't really have it in the ring anymore. Foley is pretty much at the same point, but he's getting more and more serious. And the fans don't want that from him.
No, Flair probably should have hung it up like after the Triple H feud the year before this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like that last man standing match he had against Triple H would have been a good note for him to go out on. And then on to one of my favorite random storylines of all time, Fake Kane. Oh, I loved this. I mean, the first segment was so intriguing.
Just the idea of, is there really a fake Kane or is it all in Kane's head? It was a cool idea.
Or is this the real Kane?
Yeah. Or has this been, has the unmasked faked all along?
Yeah. Like what happened here?
If they had revealed that Unmasked Kane wasn't actually Kane, I would have lost my shit for that. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Would have been like when it turned out that Peter Parker was the clone.
Yeah. And then, but okay, this all rests on one very obvious thing. You've got to get a Kane who looks like Kane.
Oh, Luke Gallows. Yeah, so first, this is Luke Gallows' fake Kane.
And like the problem is that like when Kane was Kane, and it's going to be so weird to keep saying that, but like when Kane, he was jacked to the fucking gills, man. He's like 6 foot. I'm gonna guess 6'8" in real life.
Oh no, he's not. He's like 6'4". All
right, whatever he is.
But yeah, Luke Gallows does not. I don't think it's not that Luke Gallows is short. He just looks weird in the costume.
Yeah, he just also doesn't have that like purposeful stride and like. Yeah. I don't know if he. One of the most interesting things I ever learned on Something to Wrestle With is that the reason Mordecai acted like Mordecai did is because he was trying to be early Undertaker.
Trying to impersonate like 1991 Undertaker.
And when I went back and watched that Mordecai match afterwards, that's exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
But it sucked because that's not what anyone wanted to see in 2000 whatever.
It's really tough to impersonate a wrestler, as Kane found out when he had to try to pretend to be Diesel.
Yeah. Like and that's the deeply ironic thing too, is that now Kane has his own imposter.
And of course they did this with Undertaker back for SummerSlam 94. This is easier to pull off because it's under a mask. So you didn't have to deal with like that doesn't actually look like him part. But yeah, Luke Gallows, a tough role to play. And I don't know how much time he actually had to prepare for this. This is something I feel like you would need months of work to pull off. And I doubt they probably planned this out like 2 weeks beforehand.
So the problem is that when Luke Gallows comes out in the Kane garb, it's like a fart. Like it is absolutely.
I thought it was a dwarf at first, just because the way it was shot, it looked really weird.
And like, even though he's probably maybe 2 inches shorter than Kane,
yeah,
but like it's a big deal for him to be shorter. Like you can't do that. Like it's got to be hard to go out and get someone the exact dimensions of Kane. Yeah. Like you can't just do that, but then don't do the angle.
Oh, it seemed like such a good idea, though. So, I mean, Kane is just having a match, and the lights go out, and the organ plays, the fire pyro, and then a Kane in a mask comes out.
Yeah.
It's an obvious wig. I think the wig got better as the weeks went on.
It did.
Yeah, the initial wig was not good. So where do you think this was going? My assumption at the time was like, Kane is going to get the mask back here.
Well, yeah, I think that
probably was time. It was probably time for it at this point.
Do
you think he never should have gone back? I think he had money in Kane going back to the mask.
Oh yeah, I think this was about the right time for that too, because Kane wasn't going anywhere.
Even when he finally did it in 2012 or whenever that was, it was pretty cool at first, and then it went downhill fast.
And like at this point, people actually have like signs in the crowd, like put the mask back on, like masked Kane and stuff like that. Like, there was like a movement for it. So I think it was. Part of me genuinely wonders if they were going to actually say that our Kane that we've had is not the real Kane and the other one is. And then he takes his mask off and he's got like the actual burns on him and stuff.
Yeah, there was something there. I think there's something to that. Either this has always been like, it's always been a fake Kane, or like they switched at some point.
Yeah, just like the Kane that unmasked that day against,
was a different guy.
That was, he stole Kane's identity from the insane asylum or something.
Seems like the Undertaker would have said something about that.
But I mean, like, there's so many ways you can go. That would have freshened up the character a little. I mean, it would have been something else.
Or it's the third brother. What if there's a third brother?
CAIN.
This goes back to one of my favorite online rumors, which was Brock Lesnar being the third brother of Destruction. Would have killed him. Would have killed him.
Oh, would have killed him. Oh my God, that's so great.
Batista was the one. If it was going to be anybody, it would have been Batista.
Yeah, just bring him up as like, not like Leviathan, but like Abel. Like Cain and Abel or some shit like that. No, that's stupid. Don't do that. Just bring him up as Leviathan and shut up about it.
So Kane sort of explained who the fake Kane was, that he was some guy he had known when he was a kid who was obsessed with him, which doesn't really fit in with the existing story of how Kane grew up at all, because Kane was supposed to have been raised in secret in a dungeon by Paul Bear.
But it kind of tracks with the weird second timeline they had, where like he was a party boy in high school who had a girlfriend who died in a car accident.
Yeah, he killed Katie Vick. I just thought there was going to be a May 19th tie-in here.
Yeah.
May 19th being the date of something. I don't know. Was that the date of the fire, did it turn out?
I think so. I can't remember what it actually was.
Another weird Kane storyline that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I just remember that awesome segment where Shawn Michaels was wearing the May 19th shirt and he puts it on Rob Conway.
That's funny. I forgot
That's one of the best segments, yeah.
The other Kane, I remember another random Kane intriguing storyline when he like lost a match and kind of had a breakdown and started yelling, "Is he alive or is he dead?" Yeah. And then he started carrying around a bag that had a mask in it, and we assumed it was his mask. But instead, it turned out it was Rey Mysterio's.
Which was...
Yeah, that wasn't a great way for that to turn out. Again, just put the mask back on him. It's what we've always wanted.
Yeah. And, like, it should have been such a bigger moment when he put it on, too. Like, they build to it. He takes it out of the bag, he puts it on, and then he, like, murders everyone for weeks. Like, that was the source of his power. That's his urn.
The biggest mistake they made was they had him talk.
Yeah.
He needed to go back to being silent.
But once they learned he could cut a promo, they couldn't let it go.
No, I mean, when he put the mask back on, he should have been silent. Not like, not that he should have been silent forever. That never would have worked. But when he went back to the mask, he shouldn't have talked anymore. Should have been like a Michael Myers at that point.
See, now that we're discussing this, I really feel like this was the opportunity to put it back on him.
Oh, it would have been so huge. And this whole company is a nostalgia act at this point. Like they're basically trying to turn the clock back to 1998 at this point in time. Yeah. You got ECW, DX, Mick Foley, Ric Flair. It's all nostalgia.
Yeah. I'll even pitch something deeply stupid because that's what WWE usually likes. Like, what if after he loses to Imposter Kane here, they have another match and Kane beats Imposter Kane, and then Imposter Kane disappears and just the mask is on the ground and Kane puts it on and now he's back. That's so stupid, but people would have.
And the fight was actually in his head.
Yes. But like, that's so dumb, but I would have loved it.
I mean, they did a bunch of stuff like that with Kane. The May 19th stuff, we were hearing the thoughts in his head.
Yeah.
They were flashing like that's the kind of stuff they do.
I just genuinely feel like that's what this was all supposed to be. Like 5 years of storylines were leading to this. And then they just don't do it because this match blows so hard.
Yeah, they pulled the plug because this match was bad and did not get over. So they blew it off the next night.
I mean,
Kane just kicked the guy's ass and like took the mask and threw him out of the arena. Yep. And he was never heard from again.
Yep.
But yeah, this was what I read in the Observer was this was going to end with Kane getting a huge like heel push. So I do think it was probably going to lead to him putting the mask back on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and there's a few other things on the card, but we'll just cover them when we get to them. So the show, it's June 25th, 2006. We're at the Charlotte Bobcats Arena in Charlotte, North Carolina. A not great crowd of 6,800 people in attendance. That's like half full.
Yeah, that's not good at all.
It's kind of a shockingly bad showing for a WWE pay-per-view, especially one with a pretty loaded card.
Also, this arena can hold 20,000.
Yeah.
And it feels like it. Like there's like no noise in this arena at any point.
Yeah. The show does 320,000 buys, which feels like a decent number for the time, but I'm sure they were hoping to pop more with DX coming back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. On commentary, the venerable team of Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. How'd you feel about their work on this night?
Feeling a little long in the teeth here, buddy.
Yeah. And yet, here we are in 2019, and these guys are both still calling wrestling.
It's fucking ridiculous. JR is still good here. JR does a pretty good job. Yeah. Lawler has nothing to say
about anything. King was pretty useless after about 1999.
The idea that they continue employing him to this day is just such a joke.
Just since he's a really shitty person.
Yeah, a deeply shitty person. A child rapist, you might even say.
Ooh, opening package defines the term vengeance and shows clips of the events that led us to this night.
Sure, it's fine.
And then our opening match, Randy Orton versus Kurt Angle. We forgot to mention this one.
Yes, this, as far as like undercard feuds go, this is one of like the weirdest great ones from this period.
Their match at One Night Stand was so good. This was not as good.
Not as good.
Still pretty good.
This is like the last good series of matches Kurt ever has. Like for this company anyway.
Well, yeah, because he gets fired like right after this.
Yeah. But like it just as that, like this is the weird Kurt Angle. Like not a lot of you guys may remember this Kurt Angle where he starts wearing like the mouthpiece with words on it. And like he's just like, I'm going to be 190% intense all the time.
Yeah. He's got like the dubstep remix of his entrance theme.
Yeah. And like just trying to rebrand himself as like a serious character, which doesn't really work.
No. He had done they had done the comedy so hard for so many years leading up to this that it was going to be tough to pull off.
And like you believe him in that role because he'd always been able to like transition between, but there's like no comedy to this character at all. None.
His wrestling style was really fun here, though. Just like the headbutts and all the mat wrestling. It was a smart reinvention of his style.
Well, he's decided to go like MMA influenced at this point. Like he was like really one of the first to get on that board because he was always fascinated by the idea of MMA and like the idea that if it had come around 5 years earlier, like he definitely would have left to go.
Yeah. Oh, he would have been the man. This reminded me how much I love Legend Killer Randy Orton.
Legend Killer Randy Orton might be my favorite character of all time.
Oh, what a cocky piece of shit. And like, I just like him more with the longer spiky hair rather than like the skinhead look. And I like the voices. I like the Burning My Light theme instead of the voices.
The great thing about that character to me is that like I like a character that the second his music hits, I know what his intentions are. You know what I mean? Like you just like whenever Kane's music would hit, it was great because you're like, oh, somebody's about to get fucked up.
Yeah.
And it was the same with Randy. Just like there'd be a legend in the ring, his music would hit and be like, oh shit, no, run away,
Mae Young. The disrespectful dickhead.
Yeah, here comes the guy who's gonna fucking try to steal your name.
So they start out. Angle tries to German suplex Orton off the apron, but Orton blocks it. They go back in the ring. Orton hits a drop kick that knocks Angle out of the ring. Orton goes outside and Angle throws him into the barricade. They go back in the ring. Orton shuts things down with his signature move from this era, the chin lock.
Oh,
he loved him some chin locks.
How did you feel about like headlocking Randy? The chin locking, but like putting some stank on it.
When he would actually work him, it was it's funny because it's just like, this is clearly his idea of getting heat, is make his matches as boring as possible.
It works because the fans hate this shit.
Yeah, he is a very unlikable person. We're starting to get into the era where there's not a lot of heels, but he is a true heel.
Yes.
Angle powers out. He like gets Orton up on his back and then flapjacks him.
Like, it's just pretty impressive, honestly. Because Randy Orton's like a solid foot taller than Kurt Angle.
Yeah. Orton drops Angle with a clothesline. He goes up to the top rope. Angle pops up, tries to do that thing where he jumps up on the top rope and suplexes him, but it kind of slips and Orton almost lands on his head.
That was not great.
Angle with a belly-to-belly suplex. He goes for the Angle slam. Orton slips out and hits that inverted backbreaker. Angle then proceeds to hit 8 consecutive German suplexes. So forget what I said about toning his style down.
Do you miss the consecutive? Don't you wish that like Brock would start doing this?
I do enjoy it. Kurt should have stopped doing it because it was killing his neck.
Oh, God, yeah. Like, no.
Then Jim Ross makes a reference to JJ Redick getting a DUI.
Yeah, what a weird reference, especially now. I'm
sure it was time. I'm sure it was timely at the time. I'm sure it just happened at the time. And I think he was playing for the Bobcats.
And it was like a riff on Duke, too, because they were in North Carolina. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But it's just like, man, here we are in 2019 where he's a respected veteran with the 76ers, and that doesn't track at all.
Angle gets Orton in the ankle lock. Orton rolls through, sends Angle into an exposed turnbuckle, and then Orton hits the RKO and gets the pin. So he gets his win back from One Night Stand. I don't like that they beat Kurt here, but I feel like they had this like stupid idea that like it doesn't count if you lost on the other show.
Yeah, it's also very odd because like ECW kind of gets squashed on this show.
Yeah, they do.
And like that sucks. And like it makes sense. Like all the individual decisions make sense. But when you add them up, it makes them ECW look like shit.
Yeah, Kurt with his kind of new characters should have kept rolling here. And you can build Kurt and Van Dam as like your big ECW match.
Well, that should have main evented December to Dismember. Like that was the goal, I think.
Probably. And then Kurt lost his mind and they had to fire him.
Yeah, that's a real main event, honestly.
We go backstage where Vince is on the phone. A kid in a wheelchair comes into his office. Vince thinks the kid is a DX plant and yells at him. He then wheels him out of the locker room and throws him down the stairs, complete with sound effects.
Steve.
Fuck.
This is one of the most reprehensible things I've ever seen in wrestling television. And like, golly, there's just so many. But like, I felt genuinely uncomfortable watching this. Not like, boo Vince McMahon, you bastard, but like, why did they do this?
Coach then comes in and says he has a family friend who's coming to visit tonight, and he's a big fan of Vince, a nice young man in a wheelchair. I did kind of laugh at like Coach sucks, but I kind of enjoyed him in this role as like the bumbling GM.
Oh yeah, like the bumbling lackey, like for Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon. Like he had good stuff there, where he just like think he was super cool, but then he'd run up against a real wrestler and be terrified. Yeah,
I didn't mind Coach as like a manager, and it was making him as an announcer was always terrible. And then inexplicably they brought him back a couple of years ago, and he was literally the worst announcer in wrestling.
Well, babyface Coach is not a thing that should exist because Coach is one of the most hateable people.
The smuggest, most unlikable person you can imagine.
Yeah, he seems like a nice guy in real life, but every time I see him say anything, I just desperately want him to shut up.
And also, Vince has a penis pump.
And then Vince just like, oh, penis pump, eh?
Well, I guess real tempting.
Maybe I'll go give this a try in the bathroom. And that damn DX.
Next up, we've got Umaga versus Eugene.
Oh, so we pushed a handicapped person down the stairs.
And now we've got one wrestling.
And now we're going to squash a mentally handicapped person.
Man, Eugene's been around for a couple of years at this point, too. This is Eugene. That was a gimmick with about a 1 month shelf life, and we're 2 years into it.
It's so stunning because, like, there are characters during this period that would have like a 3-week run of being kind of fun. Yeah. And then they would just ride that for years. Yep. Like that period where like Triple H kind of recruited Eugene, in order to help him against Benoit.
Over. It was a fun concept. It just didn't have a lot of shelf life.
The fucking segment where Triple H has to get into a bouncy castle to get Eugene to book him in a title match against Benoit is legendary.
Yeah, the segment where Regal teaches Eugene to wrestle and like Eugene keeps out wrestling him.
Yeah. It's just there's a lot of cool. They did some interesting things because that could have been a positive character. Like I don't agree with doing the character in the first place, but if you are, take the idea that everyone's going to underestimate himself because of his disability, and then have him beat people despite it. That's fine. But then they just kept with the comedy, and it's not funny.
So I always thought the end game should have been that it should have been revealed that he was faking it, and it would have made him the ultimate heel.
I mean, I think somebody pitched that. I don't know if it was Eugene himself or somebody else.
Like he just goes to being like Nick Dinsmore, and everybody would have hated him.
And I think that they thought that would be like way too much heat from actual like disabled groups.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if he was just like, haha, LOL, I was faking it.
Yeah, he's just he's like half-heartedly keeps pretending he's like, I can't do this anymore.
Actually, I can tell you exactly what that's like because gay people had their moment exactly like that at the Billy and Chuck wedding.
Got the rug pulled right out from under them.
Hey, this is actually a really positive thing. Nope, psych, we're not gay.
Or when Jerry Lawler asked Goldust if he was quote-unquote a queer.
Just a long positive history.
Sometime soon, we're going to just talk about that evil, awful Jerry Lawler promo on Goldust.
I'm not looking forward to it.
It's coming eventually. So Eugene is backed up. Oh, first let's talk about how much do you love Armando Alejandro Estrada?
Now look, I don't want to make this like literally a list of like stereotypes that I don't appreciate that apply to me. But as a Polynesian person, Umaga is not something I'm super fond of either. However, Armando Alejandro Estrada is the best fucking thing on this show.
He got way too over.
Like, he's a perfect manager. And you could have put him with anybody.
Popping for him here.
Like, literally, like, destroying the cigars to tell him to break him. And it's just, Oh, his promo is so good. Like, you could have put him
everybody listen to me.
He should have been fucking managing the champ. Like, no question. You could have put him. He could have managed anyone, Lesnar, anybody.
Yeah. Like, he's just slime ball with a ton of charisma.
And just like the idea of like that kind of sports agent thing, you know, where he could just be what Paul Heyman is now.
And he could kind of wrestle.
That's the thing. So when you get him in the ring for the inevitable comeuppance, he could go.
Talking about ECW stuff, that match he had with Colin Delaney was great. And he had so much charisma in the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was fucking jacked.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you never get to see
suit that. And yeah. But yeah, he got in the doghouse because the fans were popping too much for him. So they made him stop doing his name. They made him stop rolling the R's. And eventually they just got rid of him.
That pisses me off so much.
Yeah, he's a good authority figure too. He reminded me of Dario Cueto.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, he just had something, and they just kept ignoring it on purpose.
Yeah, this was not a good time for managers.
Nope.
Eugene is backed up by Jim Duggan, Doink the Clown, who was probably being played by Steve Lombardi here, and Kamala.
Yay.
It's total squash. Umaga wins with the Samoan spike in 2 minutes. I assume they did like Umaga versus Kamala on Raw at some point, because that seems impossible to resist.
I think they were building to it, but like he wasn't healthy enough to take the bump, so they didn't do
not
it.
Well, yeah. Umaga is a great talent.
Unbelievable. Like, dude, like a show that we're doing coming up here pretty soon involves him versus Jeff Hardy, and like those two had the greatest chemistry.
Dynamite together. Yeah, Umaga had a pretty good run, but man, he could have been the world champ.
And like I'm so happy, like dearly happy at the success that Roman Reigns and the Usos have had, because it kind of broke the need to ever have a character like this again.
Yeah.
Because how pigeonholed are you as this character, you know?
Yeah, it's another of those characters with like a low floor, but a high floor, but a low ceiling.
Yeah. Like, it's the same as like Val Venus, or
they put him in one of the biggest matches of all time. They put him in that Trump match.
And he drew as far as anyone can determine.
I mean, it was kind of weird to be promoting that, to have that on like the front page of USA Today, but you know, it worked.
I mean, shit. What can you say? Like, Lashley and Umaga drew in a match. You can't take that away from them.
One of the biggest drawing matches in wrestling history.
And you can say that it wasn't them that drew, and that's fine, but they were in it, man.
But they didn't hold it back.
Yeah, exactly.
Todd Grisham interviews Mick Foley backstage. Foley reads from Flair's book the parts that trash him. Foley promises to out-wrestle Flair tonight, which is a shift from the previous Monday where he kept saying it was going to be the worst match of Flair's career.
I mean, was he wrong?
Nope. And now we've got our 2 out of 3 falls match as Mick Foley takes on Ric Flair. Flair gets a huge pop. As a reminder, we're in Charlotte, so right in the heart of Flair country. I believe his hometown.
Is this, and I mean, this is a slight spoiler for the end, but is this the first match he ever won in Charlotte?
Maybe.
Yeah, honestly.
WCW was very committed to burying him. Every time they came through there, he would get his ass kicked.
I almost feel like Vince didn't know they were in Charlotte, or he would have buried him. He's like, oh shit, I forgot.
Foley gets a lot of heat for his entrance, and there's a loud Foley sucks chant. I feel like he was only over because he was fighting Flair.
Agreed.
In Charlotte. I think otherwise he mostly got cheered around this time.
Mm-hmm.
Flair controls with his superior wrestling ability, and then he catches Foley in a small package to get a pin and win the first fall. Foley gets frustrated. He throws a trash can into the ring, and then Flair catches Foley in the figure 4. Foley grabs the trash can, hits Flair in the head with it, and gets DQ'd, and that is the end of the match. Flair wins 2 falls in a row in about 6 minutes. Very disappointing match, but it was just storyline advancement. Unfortunately, the blow-off match at SummerSlam doesn't end up being particularly good as I remember either.
See, here's the thing, too, is that the idea of this match is clearly, as I'm sure it was laid out, is that, okay, Mick goes in and he tries to out-wrestle Flair, but Flair's way better than he thinks he is. And Flair out-wrestles the shit out of him and gets the first fall. And then Foley is like, okay, shit, what do I do? What do I do? And then Flair almost has him again. So Foley's got to revert to the hardcore. He's got to reach into that place that he said that he would never go to in order to beat Flair. And then he hits him with the trash can and he bloodies. I don't understand having him get disqualified because that's so stupid, right?
Well, it's a throw. It's just angle advancement, and they end up having an I Quit match at SummerSlam. So this does lead to the awesome Ric Flair versus Big Show hardcore match on ECW, which we've raved about before, but is one of the best like random one-off TV matches of all time.
Yeah, I feel like we're one of the only fans left of that in the entire world that like actually know that it happened.
Yeah. What? I don't really remember the Melina stuff from this storyline, but what was that about?
Okay, there's no real other way to put it than that Mick Foley falls in love with Melina. Yeah. Like in a creepy, creepy way. Like during this time, he just starts talking about her constantly. She shows up in his books, and like, look, I know that Morrison and Melina had an open relationship, but it can't possibly have been that open, right?
I don't think that was ever going to happen.
But like, he just becomes seemingly infatuated with her, and they work it into this storyline.
Again, when that happens, nobody has any idea what the fuck is going. You're like, what did I miss here? Did something happen on like Heat or something? I was just confused.
Because she's a full out heel who has nothing to do with him in storyline. But because he mentioned her in a book, he just assumes that people are going to understand that like they're friends in real life, and that
he writes about her in a book that hasn't come out yet. Isn't that the Hardcore Diaries?
I think you're right. Yeah, and then part of the stakes of the match is her.
Yeah, and like he ends up winning the match. Like Flair beats him because Foley quits because Flair threatens to hit Melina like with a barbed wire baseball bat. And then she turns on him and he gets fired, and that's the end of that storyline.
I deeply, deeply feel like that can't work with Melina. Like maybe if it had been like his own wife.
Well, yeah, let's remember he does in fact have a wife.
But like I feel like I've seen that storyline somewhere else recently, where they're like, he won't quit, so the guy goes out and grabs the wife.
What I pitched how the Royal Rumble match with The Rock should have ended, because it would have avoided Mick having to take all those terrible chair shots.
Yeah, The Rock goes out to his wife in the audience and says, I'll beat the shit out of your wife and kids.
Think of the heat that would have gotten.
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been, I think that would have been perfect.
But like, it seems like Mick had the same idea, and he's just like, oh man, I wish we had done that. Let's try it here, except it'll be Melina?
Melina? Huh? Really? Her?
Which is funny because they do basically the same thing with Stephanie a few years later, where they're just like, oh, hey, did you know that me and Stephanie have been super close for all the years of her life? It worked a little better because you kind of bought it, but at the same time, it's like, why?
Yeah. Like, why would you trust her? She's the biggest heel ever. Why are you so dumb?
But at least inserting Stephanie here would have made sense why it immediately leads to his firing. Like, none of this...
Yeah, Vince fires him, and
I think that's it for him.
Ever come back, or is this when he goes to TNA?
He appears in the Royal Rumble in like 2009, but
he's in that 2008 Rumble we did, that one at the Garden.
I think that's it for him. This is his last singles matches. Is this run right here?
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it seemed like at this point he was coming back, like not full time, but like at least on a Lesnar-ish schedule, because he works like 5 pay-per-views this year.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think just another of his fallings out with Vince.
Mm-hmm.
Over him pitching. I mean, Vince is right to push back. These storylines are not good.
And especially after this one bombs like it does.
Yeah.
If you're Vince, you're like, no, that's enough ideas.
We're not indulging this anymore. No. We go backstage to Maria, who interviews Carlito. She says there's a paradox of coolness, where Carlito spits in the face of people who don't want to be cool, but the coolest people are the ones who don't try to be cool. And the uncool people are the ones who do try to be cool.
Let me just say that secretly smart Maria was one of my favorite characters of all time.
Like, Maria is so like delightfully likable.
Yes,
as a character.
Like, and somehow like all of this like really degrading, sexy stuff doesn't stick to her like it does like a Candice Michelle, for example. Like you're just like, oh, she's just having a good time, whatever, for whatever reason. It just doesn't. She just seems like she's actually like enjoying herself in her job.
Yeah, the most heelish thing John Cena ever did was make out with her.
Yes, it was.
I was like, fuck you, John Cena. That's wrong, you asshole.
I remember the moment that I found out that CM Punk was dating Maria, and like I hated him so much in that moment.
She could do a lot better.
And I don't know that I would say that she did, but she could.
Who'd she end up marrying?
Mike Bennett.
Oh, right. God, it's the same Maria that, yeah. Oof,
that seems like two completely different Marias, I know, but
yeah.
But yeah, this like happy, bubbly Maria, and like stupid like a fox telling Carlito like, oh, me and Candice Michelle or whoever are going to oil each other down now. And then and then Carlito's music plays and he's got to leave.
Like, damn it. Yeah, Tori Wilson shows up, asks Carlito to hold her puppies. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's good. And she hands him 2 dogs, which, I actually did kind of laugh. That's clever.
And like Carlito could do comedy. Like Carlito had good timing for stuff like this.
Yeah. And then his music comes like first like sexy music comes on as Maria rubs oil on Tori. And then Tori rubs oil on Maria and Carlito's watching and ogling this. But then his music comes on and he has to do his entrance and he's like torn, but like ultimately like has to go do his match and like, yeah, has to like run for it.
This is a genuinely, it's not funny. It's fine. Like and this is
Carlito sells it well.
Yeah, if you're gonna put a humor segment on the show, this one's fine. Good job, you did it. That's fine. Move on.
Next up, we've got I won't say the sleeper match of the night because Cena versus Sabu really blew me away, but this ends up being a very good match for the Intercontinental title. Shelton Benjamin defends against Carlito and Johnny Nitro, 3 super athletic dudes like out to prove themselves, and they pulled it off here.
Also, let the record show that none of these people are over at all when this match begins. None. Like, these are all jobbers at this point.
Shelton looks like such an asshole, like cosplaying as The Rock here.
God, when they decide to give him sunglasses and a Hawaiian shirt to give him personality.
And like, not in a good way do I mean an asshole. Like, he looks like an idiot who's trying too hard.
It's weird to me that he does not change his gear from OVW to now. It's the same exact
gear. I thought he wrestled in pants now.
He may have just started doing that, but like
he's not on TV a whole lot.
Yeah. For the longest time, aside from that one
shorts.
Yeah. And like at this point he's still doing like the blue with the kick pads and like it just nothing's changed for him since he got called up to Raw.
Yeah, Shelton is a heel. He beat Ric Flair to win back the IC title using Mama Benjamin's oxygen tank as a weapon.
Oh, that's right.
Mama Benjamin.
Mama fucking Ben. Which, the funniest thing about that is how much everyone shits on it, and yet that's still the most over Shelton ever got.
Yeah.
Which is sad for Shelton.
What a letdown his career ended up being, but he just could not cut a promo.
No.
Just could not string words together to save his life.
He really couldn't.
Benjamin's first IC title run ended when he lost the belt to Carlito at Taboo Tuesday. And Nitro has Melina backing him up. He has a really nice heel move where he blocks the camera from seeing up Melina's skirt when she does her splits on the ring apron.
Their whole entrance is just a wondrous display of heelishness. Yeah. He's wearing his coat with like the fucking LED like readout. I don't know what it says, but it's just got like words in it that they're going through.
And I loved when he would get a title and he would let the belt hang from his pants like his dick.
And literally, people rip that off all the time to this day because it's great.
Oh, it's so scummy. Shawn Michaels wished he'd invented that when he was with DX.
Oh, God. I guarantee you the first time Shawn saw that, he was like, yep, that's the one.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Johnny Nitro was the next Shawn Michaels.
He honestly, he could have been. Like, there was a moment where John Morrison was so close to, like, being a total main eventer.
Yeah.
And then he just went away.
Yeah, petered out. Like you said, none of these guys get any reaction from the crowd, like face or heel. Nobody cares.
But then, like, the match that they have is so... It looks so much like the kind of matches you see indie guys having today.
Yeah, it's so far ahead of its time.
Yeah, this is like 5 years ahead of its time.
When did the Tower of Doom get invented? Because this feels like one of the first ones I remember seeing. And this is an awesome one.
It was being done pretty commonly in the X division like a couple years before this. But this is the first time I saw like bigger guys doing it.
Yeah, I mean, just lots of hot stuff here. Carlito's breaking out moonsaults, Hurricane Ranas. Shelton gets him with a flapjack where he goes about 10 feet in the air.
Yeah. Like Carlito's the one who comes out of this match looking like a star because he has those two moves, like the springboard where he just goes back and the one where he just bounces across the two top ropes and does like a flip. It's just like, who the fuck is this?
Shelton gets monkey flipped into a drop kick.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Really gets stuck with the kick too.
Like the one where Johnny Nitro's hanging down from the turnbuckle and like comes up and does the German suplex. That's the Tower of Doom you were talking about.
Yeah, Nitro gets knocked off the top rope and he's in like the Tree of Woe spot. Shelton like runs across the ring and jumps all the way up to the top rope, which is crazy.
Yes. And like he does not know where his feet are going to go and Johnny Nitro's legs are up there.
Yeah.
So that's risky.
And then Nitro does a sit-up out of the Tree of Woe.
Like the ultimate sit-up.
Yeah, and I think he does like a German suplex and it's a superplex and it's the Tower of Doom.
It's the best version of the Tower of Doom I've ever seen. And like literally the crowd loses their mind.
Like crowd is like, that gets a standing ovation from the crowd.
Like this match is getting holy shit chants for like wrestling spots. This is not a time when that's happening.
Shelton hits Carlito with like an insecurity super kick type of deal. He drops out of a suplex attempt, but Carlito scores with the back cracker. Nitro pulls Carlito out of the ring and slides in and steals the pin to win the Intercontinental title. Really, really good match. Feels like it should have really got, kind of been a launching point for each of these guys, but not much comes out of it.
Yeah, I mean, this felt like kind of like a low-key takeover main event, and like that's a really good compliment to give it.
Yeah, I mean, you were not seeing a lot of matches like this in 2006.
These matches didn't exist then, and like genuinely, you felt like these guys had so far to go, but only Nitro goes really any further than this.
And it takes a year after this, like he's in ECW, and they give him the Morrison gimmick, and he really kind of figures things out.
Yep.
Spirit Squad are backstage doing a cheer when Vince interrupts and yells at them, and then Vince decides to give the penis pump a try.
I jumped the gun on the penis pump, yeah.
He goes in the bathroom, and we hear an explosion, and Vince comes out covered in green slime.
I want to know how the mechanics of that worked. So he put it on his dick. He went to
you didn't see the slime that was in it? Where was the bomb?
I don't know if you guys have ever used a penis pump before. I haven't, but let me walk you through how the mechanics work. You put the pump on your junk.
Oh, sure. You've never used one, but you know how it works.
All right, shut up, Steve. Okay, it's connected to a little tube with like kind of like a push thingy, like kind of like how you have on the end of like a turkey baster, and you push it, and it pumps air in there in order to make you like erect or whatever. Okay,
yeah.
This is like the health class podcast now. Okay. So, like, where in that process does it explode and get green dye on his face?
Yeah, maybe he was looking at it, but why did he slime?
He was aiming it up.
Next up for the WWE Championship, Rob Van Dam defends against Edge. Van Dam is, of course, also the ECW champion, but that belt is not on the line here, and it's a standard match. The Immortal Van Dam line, when asked whether he was going to keep the WWE title too, he said, yes, it spins.
That was delightful to me.
It really was.
To have somebody be like, yeah, man, fucking rad.
This blinged out piece of shit belt.
And I just love the idea that, like, to have a WWE champion when you're launching a new brand be like, fuck the WWE championship. I'm all about the ECW championship. It was a cool idea.
Yeah. They trade the advantage until Lita grabs Van Dam's legs as he's getting back in the ring, which allows Edge to hit a sunset flip powerbomb after the floor, which is just a brutal move. That always sounds like the guy is just splatting on the mats.
Yep.
Edge is in control for the next few minutes until Van Dam hits a spinning heel kick. Both guys are down. Van Dam hits a backdrop in a beautiful German suplex.
Incredible.
This is like the only time I ever saw him do a German suplex.
Like, that's kind of what I liked about this singles run for him to here, is that, like, he's busting out all sorts of shit.
This is like the only time in his entire career he switched up his formula, because Rob Van Dam had the same match from like 1996 until, I don't know, he's probably still wrestling somewhere today.
Oh, he is.
I bet he's still like, the guy doesn't age.
No.
Like, when he came back to WWE in like 2015 or whenever that was, he still looked exactly the same as ever.
Exactly the same.
Like, still in shape.
His hair even looked exactly the same.
Yeah. And like could still wrestle the Rob Van Dam match. Like, hadn't missed a beat. Van Dam sets up for the frog splash, but Edge rolls away. So Van Dam jumps off the second rope, like does the Eddie Guerrero roll through, and then hits Rolling Thunder.
Okay. Eddie Guerrero can do the Eddie Guerrero roll through because he was trained to do so from the time he was like 3 years old. How the fuck does Rob Van Dam do that?
He's Rob Van Dam. He's just a freak.
And that's almost what annoys me about how lazy he would get during parts of his career. Is because he can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the best athletes to ever step in the ring.
It's just absurd.
He then hits the split-legged moonsault. Lita throws the belt to Edge, and he tries to hit Van Dam with it, but instead Van Dam hits a Van Daminator, which I always love. I wish we had gotten to see the proper Van Daminator more in WWE, where he actually threw the chair to them and kicked it in midair, but we usually had to settle for it as a counter.
But I always loved that idea of kind of like Billy Kidman can't be powerbombed. It's like you can't use a weapon on Rob Van Dam.
No, he will hit you. He will kick it into your face. Edge like crotches Van Dam on the top rope and hits that Randy Orton elevated DDT. Edge has it won, but the referee is bumped. Referee finally recovers. Van Dam kicks out after a really close 2 count. Lita sets up a chair in the corner. Edge goes for the spear, but he misses and hits the chair. And then Van Dam hits a huge 5-star frog splash to get the pin. That was really good.
It was really good.
Yeah.
I mean,
they stepped their game up for this.
Edge is just so goddamn good at this point because he just knows what he is so much.
He could always work, but now he's got the character to match it.
Exactly. And like Lita is just such a perfect heel manager. Like I never would have thought that from her. Like she seemed like such like a personality-less person when she was part of like Team Extreme. Yeah. But like she's just got so much evil in her in this character.
Heel Lita was so great.
In so many ways.
Yeah, she is looking real fun.
Looking real good at this point, buddy.
Backstage, Heyman explains to the ECW guys that in the Lumberjack match, it won't just be ECW Lumberjacks, there will also be Raw Lumberjacks. Hooray.
That seems like it's not good for his purposes.
Not exactly. Then we've got Kane versus Fake Kane. Real Kane is out first. Fake Kane second. I did feel like Gallows was improving here. Like he was starting to get the Kane walk down and like the head tilt and the pulling on the glove.
But they could have done so much more to help here. They could have dropped the lights. He could have come out and just like kind of dim red lights like they did with Kane originally in the 90s.
That wouldn't have been a bad idea.
They could have shot him from below so he looked bigger. Yeah. They could have like not had to show his muscles. They could have like not had him like stand face to face with Kane so Kane looks way bigger than him.
Yeah, they could have gotten a Kane outfit that had 2 sleeves instead of having him wear a long sleeve red t-shirt.
Yeah. What the fuck, man? Because they realized that he wasn't buff enough to pull it off.
No. Yeah, that's the thing. His arms were way too skinny.
And like, okay, and here's the thing too, is that Kane, there's a way to do this. And the way is probably best exhibited by Triple H when Mankind cuts that promo that we always rave about, where he turns into Cactus Jack, and Triple H just his jaw hits the floor, and he's like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die." That's how you do this, right? Kane doesn't sell it.
No, not here. He doesn't show any fear here.
And Kane's just like, "Well, whatever. Get to the ring so I can whoop your ass." It doesn't. And then they have this match, man. This shitty match.
Yeah, crowd turns on this match almost right away.
Well, they turn on it in the entrance because he looks like shit.
Lots of punching. Real Kane hits a DDT and a power slam. A big boot. He goes for the diving lariat, but fake Kane catches him out of the air and choke slams him and pins him. Didn't work. Vince hated it, and they dropped the storyline the next night.
This is also, I mean, it's a terrible choke slam. It's bizarre for Kane to lose to one choke slam.
Could he not do the tombstone?
I'm guessing not. Like, it almost looks like he's going to go for the tombstone.
He might not be tall enough to do the tombstone to Kane. Like, that might be dangerous.
Here's the thing. I don't know who exactly was in OVW at this time, but, like, Luke Gallows is not the guy. Like, I think, like, Matt Morgan was down there at the time.
Oh, Matt Morgan's real big. Yeah, that might have worked.
I mean, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But there's guys out there, right?
I'm trying to think. Has Matt Morgan already come and gone?
I think he has, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, I think he was before this.
As we go on with the rest of this podcast, I'm going to be looking up the roster from OVW in 2006. You'll find
who could have been or just like dig around the indies too. There must have been some big dork somewhere.
Yes. So let's just keep talking, and as soon as I find somebody better, I'm gonna just yell it out.
Thankfully, Big Cass was not around.
Thank God.
I'm glad we can still drag Big Cass after all these years.
Always and always.
Next up, we've got the Extreme Lumberjack match as John Cena takes on Sabu. First out, we've got the ECW Lumberjacks. We've got Al Snow, Balls Mahoney, Sandman, Little Guido, Roadkill, Stevie Richards, Just Incredible, and Tommy Dreamer. What a bunch of dorks.
Yeah, the people outside the ring are literally pointless. They are a bunch of losers.
I love Sabu's WWE theme.
It's so much better. It's just like an improvement on the original.
Yeah.
It's so like
just that heavy drum beat and the guitar wailing.
I don't know. Look, I know what went wrong with Sabu, but like, especially hearing that like Vince was super impressed with Sabu. It's
Sabu
just like
and Sandman. Both in like the best shape of their careers, having the best matches of their careers.
Just going for it. And like, here's the thing, is that like
Balls too. Balls had a good run too.
Yeah. This Sabu is a main eventer.
Yeah.
This Sabu will draw. Like, this guy is awesome.
It's such a shame he didn't get a big run. I mean, it still works. That's the thing, is he's kind of cleaned up here, whereas in like the 90s and early thousands, I don't think he was clean.
But like it's just so funny because we've mentioned this before, but like WCW was seriously thinking of bringing him in like 96.
They did, and remember they used him.
Yeah.
And we did that Halloween Havoc he was on.
And he got over like fucking shit.
And he had a match on Raw in 97. I just saw it the other day.
And
they used him as part of the ECW invasion.
I just think that if Sabu in his prime had gotten onto one of the major shows, there's something magical there that I think they could have used.
You can't turn the channel when you see him because you know something crazy is going to happen.
Yeah. And like just the idea of like Sabu versus Mankind matches. What a fucking
yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, yeah, this is such a fun random. I mean, it does not last long because he's gone by December to Dismember and never brought back again. But
yeah,
really good for the little bit it lasted. And then the Raw Lumberjacks. Val Venus, Matt Striker, Chavo Guerrero, Trevor Murdoch, Lance Cade, Snitsky, Rob Conway, and Viscera. An even bigger group of dorks.
Oh my god. Snitsky and Viscera are still here.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And Val Venus in 2006.
Well, he was in the dark match on this show too. This was during Val Venus's period where he was wrestling all the new guys to see if they could work.
Because if you couldn't have a good match with Val Venus, you gotta really suck.
Yeah. So he was in like the Sean Waltman role here.
Cena gets his typical mixed reaction. Sabu jumps Cena as soon as he comes into the ring. He throws Cena to the floor, but Cena pops right back into the ring and takes over. He hits the Fisherman suplex. He throws Sabu out to the floor, and Cade and Murdoch throw him back in. Cena gets thrown to the floor, and he gets beaten up by all the ECW guys. Sabu throws Cena out again, and Sandman nails him with a cane shot. Then Sabu sets up a chair, hits a beautiful triple jump moonsault.
God, it's so good.
Sabu locks on the camel clutch. He then goes for the Arabian face buster. He sets up the chair, goes to launch himself at Cena in the corner, but Cena moves. Cena comes back with a power slam. He picks up little Guido and throws him into all the ECW guys. Then he AAs Stevie Richards into the crowd. Sabu gets a chair and throws it right into Cena's face, and it makes the most brutal sounding noise.
Just fucking awesome.
Like a gunshot.
And like, let's be clear. John Cena deserves infinity credit for all of this because John Cena does not need to be involved in this nonsense.
No.
John Cena's selling his ass off for Sabu.
You get the feeling John Cena was an ECW fan.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, growing up in the Northeast, like in the late 90s, I'm sure in a wrestling fan, I'm sure he was watching ECW.
This must have been awesome to him.
The ECW guys set Cena up on a table, but Viscera breaks that up. Sabu goes for the triple jump, but Cena pops up, nails him with the Singapore cane to the head. He grabs a chair, throws it into his face, and then FUs him over the top rope through the table that's on the floor.
Awesome.
An insane spot. Crowd is going crazy at this point.
Well, like, not only do you not normally see this kind of thing on WWE television, this is without a doubt the coolest thing that John Cena has ever done, is it not?
This is badass.
Yeah, like John Cena, like at ECW One Night Stand, John Cena just had to kind of wrestle normal. This is the first time you see him like try to do what ECW guys do, and he's kicking ass at it.
Well, and they had a little bit of a character turn here with Cena where it was kind of like he was getting a taste of the dark side and he liked it.
Yeah, fuck you. I'm going to kill ECW with their own game.
You want to play rough? Like, now the bad guy's coming out.
I fucking love it.
And they just kind of dropped it after this.
Okay.
John Cena's character can't ever evolve.
Jump in here with the big guy that we were talking about in the previous segment.
Fuck's sake.
I have looked through the entire rosters for OVW and Ring of Honor, and honestly, there's probably nobody who is even 6 feet tall on either roster at this point. So I guess I kind of get it with Luke Gallows. However, there is one person in all of wrestling who is literally the perfect choice for this.
Abyss.
It's Abyss.
Fuck.
And you shouldn't even do this storyline unless you can get Abyss, right?
Feels like they could have.
Like, literally, you don't even have to put him in the Kane mask. Just have him show up as Abyss, the third brother.
Yeah. That's the thing with Abyss. Isn't he too, like, barrel-chested to play Kane?
Oh, yeah. He's fat. Like, you can just say it. He's fat.
Okay.
But, like, You would have, it wouldn't be Imposter Kane, but you can be like the third brother.
Yeah, and he's got Sinister Minister backing him up.
Yeah, and just like Sinister Minister, the insane asylum warden.
Yeah, and Dr. Stevie.
There you go. Like literally, man, that was Abyss's shot right there.
Kind of crazy that Abyss versus Kane never happened.
It's also incredible that I think Abyss was the biggest guy outside of WWE and North American wrestling at this point. That's weird.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah, probably. I'm trying to think of anybody else who was popping around at that point.
I'm sure Morgan is somewhere, but other than
Matt Morgan's in TNA at this point.
Yeah, but other than them, like fuck, this is like there's like no big guys left at this point. That's why WWE's hoarding shitheads like Snitsky.
Yeah. Cena drags Sabu in, locks him in the STF, and Sabu taps out. That gets a big pop. What an awesome match. This is my pick of the week.
Honestly, like as good as interesting as you might think that it is, it's just actually great. These guys have great chemistry. There's like a lot of chaos and fun here. Like it's only 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
I would have watched this for 60 minutes.
Cena runs into Van Dam backstage. Van Dam says Cena's got big balls, and he respects that. He challenges Cena to a match for the title tomorrow night on Raw. That would end in a DQ after Cena locked Van Dam in the STFU, but Edge interfered to break it up and stop the match. And then it was that weekend that Van Dam got busted with pot in the car with Sabu.
Yeah.
And that was the end of that.
The funny thing is, I think almost too much is made of that because they were already going to take the belt off of Van Dam at Saturday Night Main Event.
Yeah, he was only going to hold it a couple more weeks anyway.
And I don't think that it really impacted how Van Dam was pushed in ECW.
No, he would have kept. I think he would have kept the ECW title for a little longer.
Yeah, so I think the only thing that it really changed was it forced them to not have a Saturday Night's main event, which they wind up just doing DX versus the Spirit Squad again.
Yeah. Saturday Night's main event was dead and buried by this point anyway.
Yeah, so I'm just not, I know so much is made of it, and deservedly so, but like it wasn't like the company killing, it isn't what killed Rob Van Dam's push. It was a temporary push.
Yeah, it was just to pop ECW. He was never going to be a long-term WWE champion.
Exactly.
What it really led to was Big Show getting that great run with the title.
Which I don't know how we're going to get to talk about that someday, but we've got to.
I don't know. Well, we did December to Dismember already.
Yeah, we just got to find another way, man, because it's so good.
Then we've got a 5-on-2 handicap match as in our main event, D-Generation X takes on the entire Spirit Squad. DX gets a huge pop. Like fans are buying this shit.
I mean, it's just it's pure nostalgia. Like it's so cool to see them together.
Michaels and Triple H dominate early. Johnny gets his nose broken and is bleeding everywhere. And then they do a comedy spot where he like pulls out a martial arts headband and puts it on.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, but like he's bleeding and like there's blood on the headband. It's surreal.
Yeah. He's just like, this is my one spot in this match. I'm going to do it anyway.
So Shawn acts like he's scared and tags out to Triple H, who just comes in and kicks his ass. Triple H gets caught in the wrong corner. He gets ganged up on. He manages to tag Shawn. Shawn gets worked over for a couple minutes. Triple H tags in. He takes out the entire Spirit Squad. They then hit simultaneous Pedigree Sweet Chin musics for the pin. It was fine. Like it was a pretty long match because it was a main event, but it was just kind of a standard tag match.
Yeah. See, there's really very limited amount of things that you can do with the Spirit Squad. And if like the crux of their existence was just to lead to this moment where they do a job to DX, whatever, that's fine. Like this isn't offensive. It's fine as like a nostalgia throwback. Like, hey, this feels like a Saudi main event, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just like you You take some young up-and-comer and put them up against a nostalgia act, and they just get jobbed out.
Yeah, it feels like something that would happen today.
Yeah. They're just like, oh, hey, the Undisputed Era, you guys are going to have a match with DX.
And get your asses kicked.
Yep.
Mitch is made to kiss Triple H's ass.
Sure.
And then Vince comes out and calmly tells DX he'll see them tomorrow night.
Yeah, that was weird.
I think the night after this was when DX did the Vince Shane parody.
Oh, yeah.
It's, I don't know, kind of funny.
I mean, Shawn was funny.
Yeah.
Again, in every segment, like Shawn is funny because Shawn has actual comic timing, and Triple H is just lame.
Triple H takes himself so fucking seriously.
He does a Vince McMahon parody where he just actively is Vince McMahon. Like, there's no joy to it. He just does Vince.
And that's a wrap for this show. It wasn't really good or bad, but it sure was interesting.
It was weird as fuck.
Yeah. Almost every match was in some way bizarre.
And like 3 months after this, everything on this show is like irrelevant. Like it never happened, except for DX.
Yeah, DX lives on forever, but like ECW's dead. Like Shelton and Carlito and Nitro don't go anywhere. Foley's gone. Like Flair is, I don't remember what Flair ends up doing after this.
Yeah, Kurt's gone.
Orton.
Eugene's done.
Yeah, Orton and Edge was a good pairing. That was fun.
Absolutely. Oh, Rated RKO, that's the shit.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that. Oh. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of this era of the company. They're reaching at this. Like, I think the way my theory of all this is, I think they thought they were going to have like a new attitude era with Cena and Batista, and it wasn't happening. So instead, they're just reaching to try to pop business.
But you know what? I'll compliment them on this because they're making a lot of really bold decisions.
Yeah, they're taking risks.
Yeah, they're taking like risks that are actual risks. Just like, well, okay, we've always had DX reunion back in our back pocket. Let's do it now. And they let it breathe. They give it months and months of build until people actually desperately want it. And they do it the right way. Like, you can't say anything bad about the lead up to the DX reuniting.
Yeah, they just couldn't pull it off.
Yeah, exactly. This ECW thing is maybe the most ambitious thing they ever tried.
It's crazy that this actually happened.
In 1 year. Not even 1 year, because they only decided to do it like 3 months before this. Yeah. With 3 months' notice, they launch a brand. Do you understand? Yeah. They had to find a television network that would take it, make the deal, come up with all
national TV.
Yeah, come up with all of this branding, put it on TV, split the rosters again, come up with a full comprehensive plan, put writers in place, producers, referees, all of this shit in 3 months. This is insane. Like, they've never tried anything this ambitious ever again.
No, and they still haven't put NXT on TV.
Yeah, NXT has had like an 11-year gestation process.
Yeah.
And it still has not gotten the push to mainstream relevance.
It's still just a webcast.
It's just, and I don't think that Vince knows that it exists, honestly.
Vince has been to a few of the shows.
He's just like, oh, what is this, Ring of Honor?
It's just Hunter's side project.
He pats him on the head. He's like, yeah, it's a pretty good job. Not enough tall guys. All right, let's get back to work.
But yeah, really with the exception of like that throwaway Eugene Umaga match, like everything on this show was interesting. Even Eugene Umaga, like you could see Umaga's magic and so is Estrada.
Yeah, like this is just a squash and that's fine because Umaga looks good.
Yeah, he's only been around a few months at this point. He showed up like the night after WrestleMania.
Yeah, Dynamite.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Rob Van Dam's the world champion and he's wrestling Edge. John Cena's wrestling Sabu, fake Kane. They're trying. It's not all working, but they're definitely trying.
Yeah, every segment smacks of effort, which is just literally the polar opposite of what you see today.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad we did this one. This was a very interesting show.
Absolutely.
We've not done a lot of shows from around this time, so it's always good to believe this. Well, we did the One Night Stand show that was from a few weeks before this, but it's good to check in on some things we haven't done before. So we're going to continue that next time as we cover a show that Q has been talking about doing basically since we started doing this podcast. The one where Cena wrestles Bobby Lashley, the Great American Bash 2007.
Guys, literally the entire purpose of me on this podcast will be fulfilled once we cover this show, because literally the moment after we completed WrestleMania 9, the very first Lawcast, you asked me like, hey, should we do another one of these? And I was like, yeah, Great American Bash 05.
Here we are, like 2.5 years later.
This is the match that I turn to convince people that Bobby Lashley is actually good, and it's everyone else who is stupid but me. And if I'm wrong when we cover this, I'm going to eat so much shit and I won't taste anything else for the rest of my life.
You're not wrong. It's a great match.
Fuck yeah, it's a great match.
The show as a whole is actually shockingly. I thought it was going to be garbage because it's the Great American Bash. It's historically the worst pay-per-view in wrestling. And I mean, the big thing is this show takes place like just a couple weeks after the Benoit murder-suicide. So they're very much in a haze in the aftermath of that. But in some way, I mean, I think that probably helped the show in that they just kind of kept things simple and had a straightforward traditional wrestling show.
Yep. If you think that I've talked about Bobby Lashley at length before on this podcast, you're motherfucking wrong. It's coming next week.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley, and really our first time getting into the Benoit murders.
Absolutely.
I just have very vivid memories of that time and it being a very strange time to be a wrestling fan.
Oh, it's going to be some sad story sharing time right at the top of the show next week.
So yeah, all that and more next time as we take on the Great American Bash 2007.